We adopted our son 5 years ago when he was around 3.5. He had come from a background of severe neglect. I think the power of adoption, which is simultaneously the hardest and most rewarding thing we've ever done, is through the fact that you are choosing someone. We previously hadn't been able to have children, but we can say to our son that we chose him. We didn't have to love him by some accident of blood, but we chose him. We had a file about this thick with all the things that had happened in his life, all the terrible things that had happened to him, all the bad behaviours that he had because of that, all the stuff that he was likely to do in the future because of that, all the ways these things would affect him. And we read all that, yet we still chose him. So we can legitimately turn to him and say, we chose you. We didn't have to love you, we chose you, and we choose to love you. And adoption, I think, shows us a really powerful picture of God. God didn't biologically have us as children, but gave us the same rights as Jesus. God calls us co-heirs with Jesus. And that's an incredible, powerful thing. And I think the fact that God saw my file, he saw all the things that happened to me, all the bad that happened to me, all the bad that I'd done, all the bad that I would potentially do because of what's been happened in my life before that. Yet God still said, Nick, I choose you. I choose to love you. The fact that I've realised that through the adoption process has changed my perspective, not just of our son, but of other people, and put me in a place where I'm more willing and able to show grace to them because God's looked at their file and that is not enough to put God off. So who am I to argue with that, especially when I've seen firsthand how much love and grace and the hope of choice can change a life that was otherwise likely to be destined for not so much of good things. And I think in this Advent season, the hope that we're given, that we are chosen, is something that the whole world needs. It's a very cynical world anyway, and at Advent, at Christmas, these problems of isolation, of loneliness, of emptiness are only compounded even more than usual. So to be able to speak and show hope into those situations is incredibly powerful, and the hope of being chosen as you are, for who you are, with all that your file says about you from your past and your future, is just incredibly powerful. Hope. More addictive than dope. Not that I'd know, I'm a clean-cut kind of bloke. My hidden past is more cutting grass than smoking it. Jumping over pavement cracks rather than taking hits, and you can't toke on hope, but I can't cope without hope, even though I try. Hope is a big word. Hope, the antidote to a darkening world or a darkening worldview, the lesser-known sibling to love and faith who gives us all something to cling to. This is not like leaning on a spider's web, it is the flow and ebb of the tide. Problems seem a mile wide until hope has a place to reside. Hope is a big word. Hope, the kind of hope that Job wore like an old coat. His wife, the last straw on a camel's back. It's a fact, we can be just like that, when instead of whispering hope, the words she spoke hung round his neck like old rope. His whole world's broke, he starts to choke, and yet the words she's throwing are more like knives. Sometimes all somebody needs is the hope of knowing someone's there. Hope is a big word. Don't abandon it. Give it away.